Spartan Nation. I'm Ms. Childress and this is Mr. Dane, and we are currently in our temporary makerspace, and we are going to show you today how to laser engrave on cardboard and metal pieces. This is our Epilog laser, and I'm going to have Mr. Dane explain the process and the process it takes on the computer. Mr. Dane?
So to start, just to give you a little background of what this is a Epilog 50 watt CO2 laser. So you can pretty much expect to do anything besides like metal and brick and like stuff that's real dense and reflective like that. But anything else is fair game. I do have to do a quick bit about fire safety, as it's very important. You want to make sure first off that anytime this is running, you have someone standing by watching it to make sure nothing's wrong happening. You also want to avoid any materials that have excessive amounts of adhesives like cheap plywood. And you also want to avoid anything with PVC, as when it's heated up it releases a toxic fume. So other than that, we're going to go to the software and we're going to talk about kind of some different things you can make with this and what that process looks like.
Alright, Mr. Dane is going to show us and walk us through the process on how to create the design in order to print on the Epilog laser.
Alright, so to start, we're actually going to do the same project we did on the vinyl printer cutter, but we're going to see what that process looks like on the laser. So I'm going to start with just a basic piece of cardboard. I put this in the laser to get the measurements because there's X and Y rulers in there. So this is about 16 by 8.5. So I'm going to open up Illustrator, and I'm going to create an artboard that is the dimensions of my piece of cardboard. So I'm going to go to Create New. I'm going to name it something, and this will be the name that appears on the screen of the laser as the job name. I'm going to put in my width, which was 16, and my height, which was 8.5.
And how did you find that out?
I just placed the, you can either use a ruler or there's actually rulers in the laser, so you can place this in the top left corner and then you can get your measurements there. I'm going to hit create. And so now I have an artboard that represents my piece of cardboard. So just like we did on the vinyl printer cutter, I'm going to Control R to turn my rulers on. I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer. I'm going to file place my graphic. Now this is a little bit different than a sticker. What we're going to do here is we actually want to decide how big on the cardboard we want it to be, which is, ultimately totally up to us. Going to make this whatever size for now. Okay, so let's go ahead and get our cut line. So we're going to copy this. We're going to turn off layer 1, select layer 2, and we can paste it. We're going to image trace, expand, grab our direct selection tool, deselect, click on the white background, and delete. So after we did our image trace and expand, used our direct selection tool and deleted the white background. We grabbed our normal selection tool, got the outside line, the path, and hit Pathfinder Unite, which gave us our white filled in shape. So then we give it no fill, which is the white box with the red line through it. And we can give it any stroke color. I'm just going to do black. But very important, we have to make sure that if we're going to be cutting this, we want to make sure the stroke weight is 0.001. So then I can turn my layer 1 back on. And these things are already lined up. So then I can go to File and Print. And then I'm going to make sure the Epilog is selected under Printer. And then when it is, I'm going to hit Setup. On this menu, on the Select Printer, make sure the Epilog is selected again and hit Preferences. This is going to bring up the interface for the Epilog driver. There's a couple things we have to change here, and this is totally dependent on your material and what you're doing. So in the book, there's back 2 pages that have the settings for the various materials. You want to make sure that you're using the 50 watt column, as that is the wattage of your laser. And then you want to look at what type of material you're doing and whether you're engraving or vectoring. So we're doing both in this job. So under job type, we want to make sure we have combined checked. Then we're going to find the settings for cardboard. So for cardboard, there isn't an actual entry, so we're going to use Mapboard, which is the most similar. So the first thing we do is we look at, for engraving, we look at our DPI. DPI is dots per inch. This is basically the resolution. So for the best resolution for cardboard, it wants us to use 400 DPI. Then we go over to our engraving settings. We have 70 speed and 80 power. So for rastering, which is engraving, we have 70 speed and 80 power.
Okay.
Also in this area, we have engrave direction and image dithering. Engrave direction is whether the laser is going to start at the top of the job or at the bottom. Now what I recommend doing is always doing bottom up. The reason why is because when the exhaust is running, it pulls smoke, debris, and soot over your piece and out the back of the laser. So if you're doing top down, it's going to engrave and then pull smoke and everything over what you've already done. But if you do bottom up, you won't have that problem. Image dithering is basically the pattern by which it rasters. You can kind of play around with these to find the best one for your particular job. You could also get like a big piece of wood and do 6 of the same thing, doing a different dithering to demonstrate to the students what those differences are. Once we have that set, we want to go down the list. We also want our cutting. So our cutting settings, first we got to do is the frequency, which is 500 for this. And then we want to set our piece size. Now, it says piece size, but what this is actually the size of our artboard. So with the laser, you can create your artboard to be the size of the bed of the laser or the size of your piece. Regardless, it says piece size, it always is what your artboard is. So we made our artboard 16 by 8.5.
Yeah, that was measured.
In the laser, yep. And then I'm just going to put in my vector settings here for cutting, which is 20 speed and 40 power. And that's the only thing I need to change here. And I can hit OK. And then I'll hit print. And then this is a step you just have to do with Illustrator, but you're going to hit done, and then you can hit Control P and print. This will send the job over to the laser. So now what we got to do is go to the laser, put our material in, and we have to focus it. And that'll be the next step, and then we can hit go. Okay, so we've designed our job in Illustrator. We put in our settings with the Epilog driver, and so before we actually hit go, we have to put our material in the laser, in the origin, which is the top left corner, and we have to focus it. So the laser, how it works, it has to be a set distance away from the material. So if you open the lid, first thing we're going to do is we're going to put it in focus mode. Focus mode is the number 6 button. Looks like a platform with an up and down arrow. We're going to press that. And that's going to bring the head of the laser out and in a little bit. So what we can do now is we can go ahead and just hit down to jog the bed down. We're going to place our material into the top left corner. And then we're going to flip our manual focus gauge so it's pointing down. And then we're going to jog the bed back up until the cardboard touches just the end of that. And then we can flip our gauge back over. We can hit the return key, which is number 0. We can close our lid. We're now going to turn on 2 other things. We're going to turn on the exterior vent fan, which is going to suck the smoke and everything out and blow it outside. We're also going to turn on our air assist pump, which is a small air compressor that blows air towards the direction where the laser is firing to blow away any debris and things like that could be inflamed. So, Joey, if you want to go ahead and turn on those 2 things. So our job is finished. So we cut off our exterior vent fan and our air assist pump, so we can lift the lid up. This won't be hot to the touch or anything, but as you can see, we did a raster of our Spartan head, and then it went and did a cut line around it. And that's our finished product.